The 7 levels of Hollywood comedians. Level 1, the cringe machines. Level 1 is where comedy careers die painful, embarrassing deaths before they even start. These aren't just inexperienced comedians. They're actively destroying their own potential through delusion, laziness, and a complete misunderstanding of what comedy actually requires. They have zero understanding of timing, structure, or what actually makes people laugh. They confuse being loud with being funny, mistake shock value for clever writing, and genuinely believe that if they're laughing at their own material, everyone else should too. They blame audiences for not getting it, rather than accepting that their material simply isn't funny. These are the people who bomb at open mics, then immediately blame the crowd for being too stupid or not ready for edgy comedy. They steal jokes from successful comedians and think no one will notice. They show up to auditions unprepared, ramble incoherently, and can't take even the gentlest criticism without becoming defensive. Amy Schumer's career decline exemplifies level 1 behavior at its worst. After initial success, she was caught stealing jokes from numerous comedians, nearly word for word. When confronted, she made excuses instead of taking responsibility. Her Netflix specials became notorious for joke theft and material that simply wasn't funny, yet she blamed critics and audiences rather than improving her craft. She had every opportunity and platform, but destroyed it through arrogance and refusal to do the actual work of writing original, quality material. Dane Cook, in his later career, also fits here. After massive early success, it became clear he relied more on physical energy and stage presence than actual joke construction. He was accused of stealing material from Louis C.K. and others. When trends changed and audiences wanted smarter comedy, he had nothing else to offer because he never developed real writing skills. He became a punchline himself, the embodiment of style over substance. Level 1 comedians fail because they treat comedy like it's about being the class clown, instead of a craft that demands obsessive refinement. They want stadium tours without writing 1,000 bad jokes first. Level 2, the open mic grinders. Level 2 is where comedians finally start developing actual material, but it's painfully inconsistent and often unfunny. They're no longer sabotaging themselves like Level 1, but they haven't figured out what professional comedy requires. They show occasional flashes of genuine humor that make people believe in them, but those moments are buried under minutes of rambling, poorly constructed setups and jokes that land with dead silence. These comedians genuinely show up to open mics every week. They write material, they try different approaches, but they haven't mastered timing, pacing, or reading a room. Pete Davidson, early in his career, showed this perfectly. He had natural likability and an interesting perspective coming from his tragic background. But his early stand-up was underdeveloped and meandering. He got laughs from being charming and vulnerable, but the actual joke construction was weak. His timing was off. Jaden Smith, attempting comedy, yes, he tried, during talk show appearances, showed he fundamentally didn't understand comedic timing or structure. He'd say things he thought were funny, but they landed awkwardly because there was no setup, no punchline structure, no understanding of rhythm. You could see he was trying, but trying isn't the same as succeeding. Level 2 comedians aren't lazy, they're just early in a brutal journey. They have passion, but lack the skill and experience to translate that passion into consistent laughs. Most comedians spend 3 to 5 years at this level, bombing repeatedly, before they start developing their voice and understanding what actually works. Level 3. The working comics. This is where most comedians spend their entire careers, and that's not an insult. It's reality. These comedians are professionally competent but completely forgettable. They know comedy fundamentals well enough to get consistent work opening for bigger acts, performing at corporate events, and doing weekend spots at comedy clubs. Dane Cook, before he got famous, actually lived here for years. Competent club comic who could deliver laughs but wasn't special yet. Fortune Feimster is current example. She works constantly, gets decent laughs, has a pleasant stage presence, but has never delivered a special or performance that felt urgent or memorable. Gabriel Iglesias arguably operates at level 3 despite massive commercial success. He's built an empire on being inoffensive, family-friendly, and doing crowd work with sound effects. He fills arenas, but has never been critically acclaimed or considered influential by other comedians. He's the comedy equivalent of fast food, popular, reliable, but not remotely challenging or innovative. Level 3 comedians have found their comfort zone. They make decent money doing comedy full-time. They're respected locally, but unknown nationally. Level 4. The respected professionals. Level 4 is where comedians become genuinely impressive. Their material is consistently strong, technically polished, and respected by industry professionals and fellow comics. They demonstrate strong writing ability across multiple comedy styles and formats. They're reliable headliners who can carry full shows without weak moments. Bill Burr exemplifies Level 4 excellence. His stand-up is technically superb, sharp premises, perfect timing, ability to handle any crowd or situation. He's equally skilled at angry rants and observational humor. His podcast is consistently entertaining. He's respected universally by other comedians, but despite all his talent and critical acclaim, he's never achieved the cultural icon status of Level 5 or beyond. Marc Maron operates here too. Brilliant interviewer, excellent stand-up with sharp writing and deep introspection, respected across the industry. He influenced podcast culture and has had a successful acting career, but he's never broken through to mainstream cultural dominance despite decades of excellent work. Maria Bamford, Patton Oswalt, and Nikki Glaser all occupy Level 4. They're the comedians that bookers fight to get because they guarantee quality performances. They're critics' favorites and comedians' favorites. They have devoted fan bases and work constantly. But they're not yet at the level where their names alone sell out massive venues or define comedy eras. They're exceptional professionals operating just below legendary status. Level 5. The special talents. Level 5 represents comedians who captivate audiences and create moments that resonate culturally for years. They possess distinctive voices that immediately set them apart. They deliver high-impact performances and specials that people quote, reference, and rewatch obsessively. They elevate any project they're involved in and have begun defining their particular comedy era. These comedians genuinely stand out. They're not just technically skilled, they're special in ways that make them impossible to ignore. Kevin Hart achieved Level 5 through sheer work ethic and universal appeal. His physical comedy, combined with relatable observations about relationships and self-deprecation, made him globally beloved. His specials broke records, his films became hits, and his social media presence became a masterclass in personal branding. He built a comedy empire and became one of the highest-paid comedians alive. But he's not quite at legendary status because his material, while popular, isn't particularly innovative or culturally defining beyond commercial success. Ali Wong broke through with Baby Cobra and Hard Knock Wife, specials that felt revolutionary in their raw honesty about pregnancy, motherhood, and female sexuality. She created cultural moments and quotable lines that resonated far beyond typical comedy audiences. Her writing for Beef showed dramatic range. She's defining modern comedy's direction, but hasn't yet achieved decades-long legendary status. John Mulaney represents Level 5 perfection. His writing is extraordinarily tight. Every word feels necessary. His storytelling ability is masterful. Kid Gorgeous won an Emmy and became one of the most rewatched specials of its era. His personal struggles and recovery have only made his work more compelling. Bo Burnham's Inside created a cultural phenomenon during the pandemic. His combination of comedy, music, commentary, and vulnerability felt unprecedented. He's not just performing comedy, he's deconstructing it and commenting on modern existence in ways that transcend traditional stand-up. Level 5 comedians create performances people genuinely remember and discuss for years. They're the ones serious critics praise, film schools analyze, and audiences obsess over. They're building substantial legacies with every special and project. They're exceptional, and everyone knows it. Level 6, the masters. Level 6 is where comedy transcends entertainment and becomes cultural commentary and art. These comedians have complete mastery over every aspect of their craft. They've proven themselves across decades and multiple formats. They demonstrate near-perfect technical execution, staggering range, and massive influence over younger comedians who study them obsessively. They've delivered decades of consistently excellent work with remarkably few failures and have repeatedly reinvented themselves throughout their careers. Louis C.K., controversies aside, operated at level 6 mastery before his downfall. His stand-up specials from Shameless through Live at the Beacon Theater represented comedy at its absolute peak, brutally honest, philosophically deep, technically flawless. He revolutionized comedy distribution by selling specials directly online. His show, Louis, redefined what comedy television could be. He influenced an entire generation of comedians with his confessional, self-deprecating style and willingness to explore uncomfortable truths. Jerry Seinfeld has maintained level 6 status for over 3 decades. His observational precision is unmatched. Seinfeld became arguably the greatest sitcom in television history and revolutionized comedy writing. His stand-up remains razor-sharp, every word deliberate, every setup perfect. He's never stopped working, never stopped refining. Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee showcased his mastery while supporting other comedians. He's the consummate professional who's never given a lazy performance. Chris Rock has been operating at level 6 since the late 1990s. Bring the Pain and Bigger and Blacker are studied as master classes in stand-up construction. His ability to tackle race, relationships, and politics with equal brilliance while making audiences laugh uncontrollably is extraordinary. His influence on modern comedy is incalculable. Nearly every successful comedian of the past 25 years cites him as a primary influence. Tina Fey achieved mastery through 30 Rock, her SNL writing and performances, and her work as a cultural commentator. She proved women could be head writers, showrunners, and comedic leaders in an industry that traditionally excluded them. Her Sarah Palin impression became more culturally significant than Palin herself. Her comedy is intelligent, satirical, and technically brilliant. Amy Poehler, Ricky Gervais, and Sarah Silverman all occupy level 6. They're the comedians who've shaped decades of comedy evolution. They've won the biggest awards repeatedly. They've created formats and styles that others imitate. They've maintained excellence across 20, 30-plus year careers while constantly evolving rather than repeating themselves. Level 7. The legends, icons. This is the absolute peak. Level 7 is where comedians transcend comedy and become immortal cultural figures. These performers fundamentally changed comedy, defined entire generations, and achieved permanent legendary status. They wielded generational cultural impact. They completely redefined what comedy could be and accomplish. Their material remains timeless and never ages. They influenced countless comedians who came after them. They became cultural symbols recognized even by people who've never watched their specials. George Carlin, the philosopher-comedian who transformed stand-up into social commentary and cultural criticism. His 7 words you can't say on television routine literally changed free speech laws in America. He evolved constantly, from clean-cut 1960s comedian to counterculture icon to angry elder statesman dissecting everything wrong with society. His specials weren't just funny, they were essential viewing for understanding American culture. He made audiences laugh while making them genuinely think about language, politics, religion, and human nature. 20 years after his death, his material remains more relevant than ever. He didn't just do comedy, he used comedy as a weapon to attack hypocrisy and stupidity wherever he found it. Richard Pryor, the most influential stand-up comedian in history, full stop. He brought raw, uncensored honesty to comedy in ways that had never been done before. He talked about race, addiction, violence, and his own demons with a vulnerability and brilliance that was revolutionary. Live in Concert and Live on the Sunset Strip aren't just comedy specials. They're essential American art. Every comedian working today, regardless of race or style, exists in the shadow of what Pryor created. He proved comedy could be confessional, painful, and transcendent all at once. Robin Williams, pure, unfiltered comedic genius. His improvisational ability was superhuman. His mind moved faster than anyone could follow. He could riff for hours without preparation and leave audiences exhausted from laughing. But beyond stand-up, he became one of cinema's most beloved actors, winning an Oscar and starring in films that defined multiple generations. Good Will Hunting, Dead Poets Society, Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Morning, Vietnam. He had range few comedians have ever approached. His death was mourned globally as the loss of someone truly irreplaceable. Eddie Murphy. Delirious and Raw are two of the most iconic comedy specials ever recorded. Murphy in his prime was a cultural phenomenon. His energy, his impressions, his storytelling ability were unmatched. He became the biggest star on SNL, then became Hollywood's biggest box office draw throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America, The Nutty Professor, his voice work in Shrek, he dominated comedy across all formats for decades. He defined what it meant to be a comedy superstar. Dave Chappelle. His Chappelle's Show sketches became more culturally significant than most films. I'm Rick James, bitch, became part of the language. His decision to walk away from $50 million became legendary. His comeback specials on Netflix reignited debates about comedy's boundaries and free speech. He's the modern master, technically brilliant, fearlessly controversial, and utterly uncompromising in his vision. Level 7 legends didn't just make people laugh, they changed culture, influenced social movements, and became permanent parts of human artistic achievement. Their names carry weight across all generations. They're not just comedy history, they are comedy. This is immortality. This is where comedians become eternal legends whose influence will never fade.